Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Digital Info Day session. My name is Rebecca Huntley, and I am one of the myeloma information specialists here at Myeloma UK. So I work on the myeloma info line and also on the Ask the Nurse email service. Before we begin our event this evening, I would like to go over how this session will work. We'll be recording this event, and it will be available to watch on our website soon after. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom or top of your screen, and we will try to answer as many as we can. Some of you might not be that familiar with our organisation, so I'd also like to tell you briefly who we are and what we do. Myeloma UK exists to support all those affected by myeloma and its related conditions, which include smouldering myeloma, MGUS, and AL amyloidosis. We are a patient-focused and aim to empower, inform, and support patients in everything we do. As an organisation, we rely on the generosity and kindness of supporters who fundraise and donate. Myeloma UK is a charity solely funded by our supporters. We receive no funding at all from the NHS or government. Everything we do is funded by voluntary contributions, fundraising, and gifts left in wills. We are truly thankful for all your contributions as they allow us to continue working to help patients, their families, and their friends, and put on events just like this one. Tonight's digital event is on the topic of diet and myeloma. Maeve O'Shea, hemato-oncology dietitian at King's College Hospital, will be talking about diet and myeloma. So let's get started. I'd like to hand over to Maeve to give you a brief overview of the service and of her role. So welcome, Maeve. We are absolutely delighted to have you with us this evening.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. I'll be talking to you all about diet and myeloma. Feel free to, as Rebecca said, ask as many questions and pop them in the chat, and hopefully I can answer as much as possible. So what we're going to talk about today is what is a balanced diet, talk about different practical tips for eating well and dealing with any side effects you might have, and hopefully bust some myths that people may have heard about diet and myeloma. We're going to talk about quite a lot, but there's kind of three things I'd love you to remember from the talk if you remember nothing else. And those are that a balanced diet is really important to maintain your strength, energy, and maximize your life. You can adjust and change your diet in multiple different ways to help some of the symptoms of myeloma and any side effects you might be having of treatment. And to please talk to your healthcare professional if you need any support with diet or exercise. So just a caveat, please remember that whatever you hear today does not replace any advice you might have been given by your medical team or any dietitians or physios. And if you do have any specific questions or concerns about your own health, do talk to your healthcare professional. So what is a balanced diet? So one of the reasons that it's really important is that it helps maintain your body's nutrients, your weight, your energy. It helps keep on your muscle mass, which you've probably heard from healthcare professionals before. We want to make sure your diet is balanced so that you have in the right balance of all your nutrients, your vitamins, your minerals to help prevent any deficiencies and to keep your body functioning as best as it can. It also helps your immune system to work as effectively as possible, and it can help you tolerate any side effects or symptoms you might be having from treatment itself or from the cancer. So next slide, please. So your diet is made up of 5 different food groups, which we'll talk through in a bit more detail in a moment. And balancing it means just having the right amount of each of these food groups for your body, which provides you with all the nutrients you need for your health and to get through treatment well. It's also about enjoying your diet and getting enough calories, protein to help you enjoy your diet and get that best quality of life you can and give you all that energy you need. Whether you're trying to lose or maintain or gain weight, regardless of any of those, it is important to get a balance of all of the food groups. So we don't want to be avoiding any food groups or cutting out food groups. Every food group is needed for a specific reason. So you've probably seen this before. This is called the Eat Well Guide. It shows us all the different types of food groups, so your five main food groups and the amounts that should be eaten from them. And it's used by the NHS to kind of guide how we advise how much foods and what types of food should be eaten. So this is the layout of that Eat Well guide. So this shows us how much of each of those food groups we should be having. So if you look at the first one, the fruits and vegetables, I'm sure you've all heard of your five a day. And that is the recommendation to be trying to have five portions of fruit and veg every day to get you your vitamins, your minerals, your fiber. A portion of fruit and veg is about a handful. So if you think of like berries or grapes or salad, it'd be like a cupped handful of those. So by that I mean your two hands. Or like a banana, an apple, that would be a portion. You can also have fresh, you can have frozen, tinned, dried. Those all count towards your five a day. And juice also, however, one glass of juice counts as one of your five a day. If you had five glasses of juice, that still only counts as one of your five a day. So opting more for the fresh, frozen, tinned, or dried over juice. Then when we look at carbohydrates, so carbohydrates are your main source of energy in your diet. Carbohydrates are your kind of starchy foods, so like your potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, rotis, chapatis, yams, all those kind of foods. So like I said, it gets you your energy. It also provides you with fiber if you're having whole grain options. There can be sources of calcium, iron, and your B vitamins in your carbohydrates as well. So these are very important food. And we recommend having one portion of starchy foods in every meal. So like having a slice of bread at breakfast, having potatoes at your dinner time, having pasta at lunchtime. That's getting you a portion in each meal. Then protein. Protein is a very hot nutrient these days. Everyone's into their protein. So protein helps your cells grow and repair, and that's what helps maintain muscle mass and just all of your cells in your body in general. That's protein helps those grow and repair. We recommend having 2 to 3 portions of protein a day from a variety of different sources. So you can get protein from meat, fish, eggs, dairy products, tofu, corn, small amounts of beans, peas, and lentils as well. So that is where you get that protein from. The guidance is to avoid processed meats, and a processed meat is a meat that's had added pathways to make it last longer. So by that I mean bacon, which is either smoked, or they add things like nitrates to preserve them from longer, sausages. So it's very far from the original food that it was. So if you think of pork and then you think of a sausage, they are a very different item. So any meats that have had extra layers of processing, because there are strong links between processed meats and colorectal cancer. So in general, the advice is to avoid processed meats. Then dairy products is our next food group. So we recommend having 3 portions of those a day. So again, you could get 1 portion in breakfast, 1 in lunch, 1 in dinner, and that's your 3 portions ticked off. Dairy products provide us with calcium, protein, as I mentioned, and different vitamins and minerals. If you're looking to lose weight or maintain your weight, we say to typically go for the lower fat options. If you need to gain weight, full fat's a good way of doing that because you can get some extra energy from those items. And if you don't like dairy or intolerant to dairy products, then options like soya drinks are a good option. Just double check that they've been fortified. By that, I mean they've added calcium and vitamin D and vitamins to your milk so that you're still getting those benefits. Then fats wise, fats are an important food group to have. So like I said earlier, we don't want to be cutting out any food groups, and fats have been demonized for quite a while. So fats help you get extra vitamins and minerals. So there's certain fat soluble vitamins that are only available from fat. That's why they're fat soluble. And also we need fat to promote our hormones and create hormones. So they're really important. So you just need a small amount of fat in your diet. And going for healthier, unsaturated options is better for your heart health. So unsaturated fats are typically your fats that are liquid at room temperature. That would be your oils like olive oil, rapeseed oil, sunflower oil. and those are better for your heart health. Whereas saturated fat is the type of fat that can increase cholesterol, which is not so beneficial for heart health. It can be quite damaging. And the saturated fats, excuse me, are your solid fats at room temperature, like butter, coconut oil, those kind of ones. Then dietary supplements. So a lot of people ask me about dietary supplements. In general, we say they're not necessary. So you don't typically need to supplement your diet if you're having a balanced diet, as we just discussed, because you should be able to get all the necessary nutrients, all the vitamins and minerals from food itself. However, if you have a deficiency, so if you've had a blood test and it shows that you're deficient in a specific vitamin, then yes, it would be necessary to supplement that or correct that through medication. But that would be your healthcare professional would need to advise you on that. Um, Typically things like vitamin D. A lot of people can be low in vitamin D, especially in this country. As you can see, it's very dark outside, and we get our vitamin D from the sun. So this time of year, most people should be having a vitamin D supplement, but again, your healthcare professional should advise you on that. And evidence shows that the best way to get your nutrients overall is through diet because we can absorb it properly when you eat whole foods together, whereas having just a specific vitamin supplement doesn't work as well because food is naturally has lots of different compounds and chemicals to help your body absorb it. Whereas if you just take things in isolation, they don't actually work as well. So it's best to be getting your nutrition from food. So exercise. Exercise is obviously very important. It's part of a healthy lifestyle, and it can help with energy levels, help with fatigue, help with reducing stress. And often people can go long times without exercise if they've been ill because it's really difficult. If you're feeling really fatigued and unwell, it's hard to get up and move around. But the longer you go without moving, the more your muscles start to break down and get weaker. So it is very important to keep up some level of exercise, but obviously tailoring it to how you are, because we don't want you to push it too hard and then be even more fatigued. So it is important to talk to your healthcare professionals before you start doing any type of exercise. If you need support, ask to be seen by physio, because they're really good at giving, that's obviously their job, giving advice on exercise and movement, tailoring it to yourself. So kind of the basics of it are listen to your body. Don't go too hard. See how you're feeling, check in with yourself when you're starting to exercise. Start up slowly. Don't go trying to run a marathon before you can run 5K, basically. And if you're feeling breathless, if you're in pain, stop. Don't lift anything too heavy and don't do anything too high impact without support. So I've spoken to you all about eating well, but what things can we do to help ourselves eat well? So a lot of you will have heard about food hygiene, especially in relation to treatment. A lot of treatments you might be on can put you at increased risk of infection. So we want to avoid food poisoning. So it's really important to follow really good food hygiene. Obviously, washing hands before preparing meals. You want to make sure all your utensils and things are clean. Use separate chopping boards for meat versus vegetables, for raw food versus cooked food. Definitely want to avoid any bruised or moldy fruits or vegetables. So using everything within its best by date and making sure it's all up to scratch. And yes, trust your nose. If you sniff the milk and it doesn't smell right, don't drink it. It's not worth the risk of getting food poisoning. And on that note, it's good to kind of know what temperatures your fridge and freezer should be at and what temperatures food should be stored at. So these are the guidelines for what temperature your fridge and freezer should be. A lot of people do defrost food on the countertop from the freezer. That's actually not what we recommend. So your best defrosting food, take it in from the freezer, putting it into your fridge. And let it get slowly defrost in the fridge, because that's at a more controlled temperature. So the food will never get above the temperature of the fridge, which is considered the safe temperature for storing food. If you're to take it out of the freezer, put it on your countertop, then the outside of the food defrosts a lot quicker than the inside. So the outside of your food could get to room temperature, say 18 degrees, and the inside of your food is still frozen. If the outside of the food is at that temperature, then bacteria can start growing. And then when you reheat it or cook it, then you could still be consuming a lot of uh, nasty bacteria that could lead to food poisoning. So that's why it's always recommended to defrost your food in the fridge. Um, and obviously, when shopping, buy the frozen food last. So don't like walk around the supermarket for an hour with the frozen food in your trolley fully defrosted. You get home, put it in the freezer. You've had that freeze thaw moment where you're giving bacteria the opportunity to grow. So we're always best to try keep food at the correct temperature it's supposed to be stored in as possible. So you may have been advised to avoid certain foods during treatment. Typically, this is when people have a very low immune system. You'll have probably been given this advice. The main ones are your raw meats, raw fish, unpasteurized dairy products. So most dairy products in the supermarkets are pasteurized. So your typical milks and yogurts, those would typically be pasteurized. Some cheeses are not. It's more for if you're buying food from like farm shops, though you can often get raw milk. That is definitely not recommended because that's not heat treated. So the bacteria can still be in the milk. We want you to avoid that to avoid getting infections. I say to avoid raw or partially cooked eggs. Again, there can just be extra bacteria if it's not cooked. Mold ripened soft cheeses. So that would be your things like camembert, brie, or Stilton blue cheeses that have that mold in it. So we say we don't want you getting extra bacteria. We also don't want you getting extra molds. Because again, that if your immune system isn't working up to scratch, then those things can make you quite ill. And probiotic drinks and yogurts, we say to avoid the probiotic specific ones if your immune system is very low. So this slide kind of shows you the common side effects that some people can get from myeloma or its treatment. Changing your diet is not going to necessarily fix these side effects, but can help you feel better and help you get enough nutrition if you are struggling with those side effects. So we'll go into more detail on each one of these in the next few slides. So a lot of people do experience fatigue during treatment or with having myeloma. Fatigue is kind of defined as a tiredness that doesn't get better with rest and sleep, and it's really difficult to try and eat healthy and cook and do the shopping when you're feeling very fatigued. These ideas might help a little bit to get your nutrition. So having lots of snacks ready to go, so you don't have to necessarily go cook a full meal. So things like yogurt, boiled eggs, crackers and cheese, fruit bars, oat bars, those kind of things that are just easy to pick at and can get you some good energy and protein would be quite useful. Ready meals can be very useful if you are struggling to cook a meal. If you're, it would be good to kind of check the labels, just make sure they're not super high in fat or salt. But in the short term, just trying to get enough nutrition in is the main goal. Batch cooking when you have more energy is useful, like making like a chili con carne, making a curry and portioning it out and putting it in the freezer when you do have that energy. So then you can just pop the food in the microwave and then be ready to go is quite useful. There's also lots of meal preparations services out there. There's lots of supermarkets that do like home cooked ready meals or shopping online for your groceries. All of that helps. So it takes that pressure off and it's less effort for you to actually get out and do these things when you're feeling really fatigued. And definitely staying hydrated. So keeping that fluid level up if you're not on a fluid restriction. Appetite loss is probably one of the biggest things I see patients for. It's unfortunately very common and it's very tricky to eat enough when this happens. What we usually say is trying to have high energy, high protein foods very frequently. So the kind of that little and often approach instead of trying to sit down to 3 big meals when you don't have an appetite. It can be very off-putting. So little small snacky meals can be a lot easier. and trying to eat that bigger meal when you are hungry. So working with that hunger cue wherever you can. If you're feeling hungry, eat. It's a great sign you have hunger. So definitely try and eat as much as you can at that point. Making like homemade smoothies with full fat milk, or having milkshakes can be really helpful to get enough energy and protein into. If you're struggling with smells, a lot of people struggle with the smell of food while cooking. Asking someone else to cook for you, cooking with the windows open, having the extractor fan on, all of that can really help. Or going for colder foods, because there's less of a smell off those. So having like sandwiches, um, or crackers and cheese, yogurts, those kind of snacky things instead of a cooked meal can help in that situation. Try not to drink while you're eating, or just before you eat, because that can fill you up very quickly. So, like having a big pint of water with your meal when you don't have much of an appetite, you probably drink the water and manage like a spoonful of the food, and then it's a struggle. So, try and separate that out as much as you can. And movement can really help. Uh, Even like getting a little bit of a walk in, or whatever exercise you find doable, that can really help with that appetite. So, do try that if possible. Then nausea is a really tricky one. It's so hard to eat when you're nauseous. Things that we suggest is, like I said with the smells earlier, going for colder foods and not having foods that really smell can definitely help. Um, Staying upright after you eat. So like trying to get a little walk around the room, or at least sitting upright in a chair. So it kind of keeps that food down. Because if you lay back straight after eating, it kind of allows a bit of reflux. It makes reflux a lot easier, and it can allow kind of the food travel up a bit and make you feel even more unwell. So do definitely try and stay upright for about an hour or so after eating. Going for the bland options is best. So like think like your pasta, your potatoes, toast, bananas, those kind of things that are bland and don't have much of a taste. And most people do struggle with fatty, fried, spicy foods with nausea. So steering clear of those if there's something that doesn't sit well with you. Um, Again, it's the little and often approach with nausea too, because we want to get in enough nutrition, and trying not to eat something too large that kind of sets that nausea and vomiting off. But also trying to avoid having an empty stomach, because if there's nothing in your stomach, you often can feel more nauseous. So trying to keep having little bits and pieces here and there, like little crackers or crisps or small bits to help settle your stomach. If there's issues with taste, if there's like a bad taste in your mouth and that's making the nausea worse, rinsing your mouth out, trying to have mints or sugar-free sweets can help as well. Um, Diarrhea is another difficult one, and it's quite a common side effect that people have. Definitely want to stay hydrated if you're having diarrhea, because if you're losing a lot of fluid, we need to replace that fluid. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you're on any kind of fluid restriction, follow that and speak to your medical team. But in general, trying to get 2 liters of fluid in at least if you're having diarrhea. Similar advice to some of the other issues. It's about eating small amounts during the day, instead of large meals, so little and often approach. Some sweeteners can make diarrhea worse. So sorbitol is one of them, which is often in sugar-free sweets and chewing gum. So avoid that if you're having diarrhea. You can just see it on the packet, of the sweets or the chewing gum. Um, Having soluble fiber can help. So soluble fiber is in like your bananas, your oats, your bread, your rice. That can help bind things up a little bit. So that would be something to try. And high fat meals can make diarrhea worse. So trying not to, and spicy food. So avoiding those if you do find it makes it worse. Then the other end of the spectrum, constipation. Again, it's about hydration. So if you're going too often or not going enough, we need to make sure we're getting that fluid in. So if you're not drinking enough fluid and you're eating well, your gut struggles to move things through without enough fluid. So then the stools can become very hard and get stuck and can lead to constipation. Again, as I said, I'm caveating this every time. If you're on a fluid restriction, do as your medical team advise. But in general, otherwise, getting in enough fluid is really important. Getting more fiber into your diet can help with constipation, but you want to do it slowly. Don't want to go from no fiber to loads of fiber in one go because that actually can make you feel very bloated and uncomfortable. So it's about slowly introducing your fiber. And we find fiber in your fruits and vegetables, in whole grain foods like oats, brown rice, brown pasta, brown bread, those kind of things. What you could also do is try adding, say, to like if you're having cereal or porridge in the morning, add linseeds or wheat bran or chia seeds to your food. That's about a spoon of those is a big hit of fiber. So that's something that can quite help with constipation. Um, and having those fruits like at the top, like apples, apricots, those kind of things, prunes as well, can definitely help. Also exercise. So your gut moves naturally. It's called peristalsis, is what helps move stool through your gut. That is helped by moving. So if you can do any possible exercise, that also helps with constipation. Then mouth problems. So a lot of people do struggle with issues such as dry mouth, sore mouth. You might have heard of mucositis, which is like ulceration in the mouth, following some treatments. Um, so for issues with, say, dry mouth, doing things like sucking on sweets, sugar-free sweets, or chewing gum can help you produce more saliva. Having regular sips of fluid to kind of keep that mouth moist can be quite helpful. Or having, with a dry mouth, having things like citrus can help kind of stimulate those salivary glands and get a little bit more saliva flowing. Also, massaging the side of your jaw can help produce more saliva, which can also help. If it is a big issue, obviously speak to your medical team. They can get you also some medications. There's artificial saliva, which you just spritz around your mouth. That can help too. Having ice lollies can help as well. With sore mouth, then it's about having colder things can help kind of numb down the pain a little bit, like ice lollies, ice cream, frozen yogurts, just ice itself. It can obviously be quite difficult to get enough nutrition in with a sore mouth, so having your foods in kind of liquid form can help. By that I mean like milkshakes, smoothies, soups, probably not piping hot soup, but letting it get a bit cooler. So at least you're getting some extra nutrition if you're struggling to eat because of the pain. Going for those soft things, definitely useful. Also things like yogurts, custard pots, rice puddings can be much easier to get down at that point. If your mouth is sore, do avoid those foods that could irritate it. So, like I said, try the citrus if it's just a dry mouth. If it's a sore mouth, I would avoid citrusy things like lemon and lime because that can be quite irritating and stingy. Spicy food as well is usually quite difficult if your mouth's sore. And then if you think about like the crunchy foods like crisps, like a baguette, those things can always be quite difficult if the mouth is sore. And extremes of temperatures, so very, very hot foods can be difficult. A lot of people do work well with the cold foods like the ice lollies, but some people do struggle with that as well. And alcohol is quite irritating to like the membranes too. So I would avoid that if you have a sore mouth. So when to see someone like myself. So if you're struggling with eating, if you're losing weight, if you're gaining a lot of weight, if there's side effects you're having that are affecting your ability to eat, or if you just have questions about your diet, ask to see a dietitian. So you can ask to be referred to us by your medical team. So either your doctors, your nurses, do ask to be referred. And we're always available to help. So there's a lot of good resources online. So if you are struggling and you need some advice, or if you're just interested, or if you're waiting to see a dietitian, the best places to go are like the Macmillan website. They have like lots and lots of diet sheets, which are really useful. World Cancer Research Fund has lots of them as well, which is really useful. British Dietetic Association as well. They're all written by dietitians, so they're a good one to look at too. I'd recommend going to these places first before just Googling because there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, which we'll talk about in a little bit on myth busting, but go for these and they're in the chat as well. These kind of resources are written by healthcare professionals and they're really helpful. We use them all the time. We give them out to people all the time. So straight on to myth busting, as I was saying. So we're going to talk through some kind of myths you may have heard of, and hopefully it'll clear things up. So a huge thing I talk about all the time is sugar. Lots of people are very, very scared of sugar. Um, so a lot of patients say to me that they've heard that sugar feeds cancer, completely cut out sugar to stop cancer growing, and it can lead to a lot of weight loss, and it can be very detrimental to health. So sugar is in so many foods. Sugar is in fruit, veg, milk, dairy products, bread, rice. And sugar is our body's favorite source of nutrition. So we use glucose, which is sugar, for our energy. It's what our bodies are built to use. Every cell in your body wants glucose, and that's how it works. Cancer cells also use glucose, but every single cell in your body is relying on glucose. Cancer cells are also very smart. So cutting out glucose doesn't stop them working. Um, and if we do cut out glucose from our diet completely, so if you fully stop eating anything with sugar in it, your body will make sugar. So our bodies are really, really good at getting us that energy source we want. So regardless if you eat sugar or don't eat sugar, your body is going to produce glucose itself. Um, so cutting out sugar does not stop cancer. It doesn't help. If most people who cut out sugar end up losing lots and lots of muscle mass because they've cut out a huge food group from their diet. So it's not something we would recommend. Obviously, this is not me telling you to go eat spoonfuls of sugar. We do say don't have more than 30 grams of sugar in the day. But I want you having carbohydrates, like I mentioned before. I want you having that food group. I want you having fruit, veg, and getting all of your good nutrition from those things. Then the ketogenic diet. So this kind of feeds off the back of the sugar side of things. So the ketogenic diet is a high fat, sorry, low carbohydrate diet. So essentially it's cutting out the glucose side of things. So when you don't take in any carbohydrates, your body breaks down the fat in your body to create chemicals called ketones. And the concept that some people have heard is that having a ketogenic diet will starve cancer cells of the energy they need to grow. There is no evidence of this helping in myeloma. The studies done on this were done on cancer cells in animals, and there's very, very limited trials in any humans. So it's not something we recommend at all. And this diet is, when you're cutting out all carbohydrates, you then end up having a very low fiber diet. There's no fruit and veg. So it can lead to issues like constipation, lots of bowel issues. It can lead to lots of vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So it's not a good diet to be following. Unless you're specifically suggested to do this by your healthcare professional, which is very unlikely, it's not something I would ever advise. So turmeric is a really interesting one. So many of you probably have turmeric in your house. You use it in curries, and it's a very nice spice. So what we've heard is what people think is that turmeric, it's an antioxidant. So it can slow cancer cell growth or even kill cancer cells. The active ingredient in turmeric is called curcumin. Turmeric itself only has a very small amount of curcumin. There have been studies on this curcumin. I can't pronounce that word very well. I'm very sorry. There have been studies on this on cancer cells themselves, so not in people. So where they gave very high doses of this curcumin to cancer cells, and some of these cancer cells died. These studies have not been done in humans, and there's not enough evidence to suggest having lots and lots and lots of turmeric would help with cancer. Also, having very high levels of antioxidants can negatively impact with your cancer treatment, so it's not recommended to do something like that. And to get the amount of curcumin that they used in these studies on just cells themselves, you'd need to have like 3 whole jars of turmeric in one go, which think you'd probably get sick if you did that. It'd be very unpalatable. So definitely turmeric is fine to have. It's tasty and it's good to use in your curries. But it's not something that we think would slow cancer growth or kill cancer cells. So I wouldn't recommend having it in excess. If you like it, great, but not having jars and jars of it a day. Then the alkaline diet. So the idea behind this is that cancer cells like an acidic environment. So if you change your diet, you can make your blood more alkali. So that's basic instead of acidic. Our body's pH, so our body's acidity or alkaline, is very, very, very tightly regulated. You cannot change your body, different levels of your body's pH by eating. Our bodies need to be at all these different pHs. So, like the pH in your mouth is different to the pH in your stomach, is different to the pH in your blood, is in your tears. They're all slightly different, and for very good reason. That's how our bodies function properly. Um, you can't change any of the pH in your diet by eating foods. This diet is a big farce. And yeah, the alkali diet suggests things like cutting out meat and dairy products. That does not change the pH of anything in your body. Um, and yeah, the cancer itself creates an acidic environment to help itself grow. So yeah, this this is a very silly diet, and I don't like it. Yeah, so that is everything from me. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Maeve. That was a great presentation, loads of great information in there, and really, really clear explanations as well. Loved that myth busting. There's so much information out there, isn't it? So it's great to have the clarification on all of that as well. It was brilliant. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. So we will now jump into our questions. So thank you to all who have submitted questions in advance. We have received nearly 80 questions, and
Wow.
while we're unable, yeah, amazing. We're unable to respond to each one individually, but we have grouped them by theme and selected the most common topics to address. And just to say, for any personal or specific health-related concerns, we would kindly ask that you contact your healthcare team directly. They are the best people to give personalised advice that is the most relevant to your situation. If you would like to submit any more questions to us, there's still time. Please do pop them in the Q&A box, and we will try our very best to get through as many as possible. So let's begin. So we have great. Question number one for you, Maeve, and this one comes from Catherine. And Catherine asks, I want to enjoy eating out and getting takeaways, but I'm worried about food hygiene. Do you have any tips about eating safely?
Yeah, so that's definitely something you should be able to enjoy is eating out and having a takeaway because who doesn't love having a takeaway? So yeah, it's quite an easy one. So all restaurants have to have a food hygiene rating. So that's what regulates how clean a restaurant is. And what we recommend is going for one with a food hygiene rating of 5. So that's as high a hygiene rating as it can have. You can find there's like a sticker on the door or the window of the restaurant, or if you Google the restaurant and food hygiene rating, it shows up. Or if you're using Uber Eats or Just Eat or any other app like that, it should be on the restaurant's page on that. So you're always looking for 5 stars. That's as clean as it can be.
That's brilliant advice. I have noticed those stickers in the windows actually, and it's really
Yeah,
reassuring, isn't it? So that's brilliant and great to know that you can Google it if you're sitting at home and choosing a takeaway as well. So
yeah, it's all online, so
fantastic.
you can definitely find every restaurant. And if
That
it's not there, I wouldn't recommend going.
exactly. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So our second question for you this evening comes from Maria. And Maria would like to know, are there any foods I should avoid that may make me relapse faster?
Yeah, that's a common one I get asked. There isn't any specific foods that could make you that we know could make you relapse faster. Best things you can do are, like I was talking about earlier, trying to follow that balanced diet. If you're a healthy weight, trying to keep your weight nice and stable and keeping active and yeah, getting that good balance of nutrition. But there's no known foods to make someone relapse faster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the advice we would give on the info line as well, just to eat as well as you possibly can,
Yeah,
keep as healthy as you can. It stands you in really good stead, doesn't it? So
exactly.
great stuff. So our next question comes from Tamara, and Tamara would like to know, how do I avoid food cravings caused by steroid treatment?
Mm. I don't know if you can necessarily avoid that happening because you can get very hungry with steroids, and it's really tricky because a lot of people do put on a lot of weight on steroids. I would say the best things you can do, again, following that balanced diet, but trying to make sure you have a lot of, if you don't have any bowel issues, having a lot of fiber, because fiber can help keep you full for longer. So lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of whole grain products, nuts, seeds, because those things can help keep you full. And as well, making sure you've got a good source of protein in each meal, because again, that food is very good at keeping you fuller for longer.
Mhm.
Then if you are craving snacks, um, which you probably will, unfortunately, but going for those things that aren't very high in sugar, because with steroids, people kind of issues their blood sugars. So we want to go for those lower sugar snacky options so you're not taking in lots and lots of sugar. So things again like nuts, crackers and cheese, boiled eggs, hummus and carrots, any of those kind of snacky things. And if you are kind of gaining a lot of weight on steroids, trying to go for the lower fat options, so like low fat dairy products, low fat yogurts and hummus and those kind of things, so you don't gain too much weight. But there's probably no way of really avoiding it, avoiding the cravings, but trying to work with them and going for the best options you can and keep hydrated. So you can feel hungrier if you're not drinking enough. So that too.
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. Hydration seems to be key to quite a lot, doesn't it? Making sure
Hydration
that
is
you're,
everything.
yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. So our next question does come from Eileen, and Eileen is asking, is indigestion more likely whilst on lenalidomide? If so, do you have any advice for managing indigestion?
Indigestion can happen quite commonly with lenalidomide. And yeah, indigestion is an awful, it's an awful feeling. So things to help are typically avoiding high fat foods, spicy foods. Those things can make indigestion worse. Eating late at night as well, and lying down after eating. So say like you have a curry and then you lie down, then that allows that reflux, I think I was mentioning before, to happen, and it can make it worse. Um, that's the reason as well we say not to eat late at night because I don't want you eating your meal and then going to bed because indigestion, a lot of people do find it worse overnight. Um, you can also raise the head of your bed a bit, so have an extra pillow for nighttime. Some people even put bricks underneath the little stools of their
Mhm.
bed. Um, Dairy products can help. So low fat dairy products, having a glass of milk, because indigestion is basically the acid coming back up. If you have then milk, which is a base, going back down, it can help neutralize that acid reflux. But definitely, if these things aren't helping, do talk to your doctors, your healthcare professional, because there's a lot of medications you can get put on as well. And you, if the indigestion is quite bad, you probably do need some medications to help with it. And caffeine too. Caffeine is not great with indigestion, so limit that.
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. Fantastic. So yeah, keep it plain. Don't eat too late.
Mm,
Try not to lie down straight afterwards, all of these things. And if that doesn't help, then speak to your team. It is, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, fab. So Johnny is our next person who's asked a question, and they would like to know. They say, I've heard advice that myeloma patients should drink plenty of water and try to have, there you go, try to have protein-rich foods to maintain weight. I've also heard advice that people with kidney disease should restrict their water intake and reduce the amount of protein they eat. How do you balance this advice if you have myeloma and myeloma-related kidney disease?
Mm. So yeah, you would need to follow the specific advice you're getting from your healthcare professional with that. Because yeah, if you do need to fluid restrict and you do need a lower amount of protein, then that's what you need to do. So don't follow the generic advice that I'm giving if that is the case. Because if your kidneys aren't working up to scratch, they struggle with extra fluid, they struggle with extra protein, so you don't want to do that. So yeah, I can't specifically tell you what to do, but it would be follow your healthcare professional's advice, because they know all your history and they know what to do in that situation.
Yeah, yeah. And it is just so individual, isn't it? And we
Exactly.
always say myeloma is such a unique cancer, and no two patients are the same. So
Yeah.
yeah, so seek advice. Great stuff. Next question comes from Mary, and Mary would like to know, is it okay to eat red meat?
Yeah, so if you're already eating red meat, then it is completely fine to eat red meat. We do say not to have more than three portions in the week, because as I was mentioning earlier, there is a lot of evidence that processed meats, which I spoke about, like burgers, sausages, salamis, those kind of things, that there's a lot of evidence that that is linked to colorectal cancer. There's potential evidence that red meat could be linked to colorectal cancer. So we do say to limit it to no more than three portions in the week. Um, Red meat is a very good source of iron, protein, vitamins, minerals. So if it's something you eat, it's good to have, but no more than three portions in the week because we consider that to be the safe amount.
Great stuff. That's really helpful. I might just pop this one in. Actually, there was a live question that had come through
Mhm.
from Jane, and it kind of ties in really nicely here. So Jane was just wondering if smoked salmon counts as processed meat.
That's a very good question.
Hmm.
It's a processed fish. It's not the same class as a processed meat.
Hmm.
I honestly don't understand why,
Hmm.
but it's not in any like carcinogen guidelines or links, so
Oh,
it's
good.
considered something fine.
Great.
On that, though, with the smoked salmon, if you are at risk of food poisoning, if you have a low immune system, um, in my trust, we advise having smoked salmon straight from the packet, then don't re-eat from that same packet. So eat it as soon as it's opened, and that's it.
Uh-huh.
Some places may tell you not to have smoked fish at all, but
Okay.
that's the
Yeah.
general
Oh,
advice.
yeah, that's great advice. Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you. Next question comes from Lindsay, and Lindsay has asked, can being overweight increase your risk of developing active myeloma if you have smoldering myeloma or MGUS?
There's not any evidence to suggest that from my knowledge. Being obese and overweight is linked to some other cancers in general, but not myeloma.
Great. Thank you. Another sort of weight connected one right here. So Ian would like to know, how can I sensibly and healthily lose weight?
Mm. If you need to lose weight, I always caveat with that because some people feel like they need to lose weight, but they don't. Then again, it is following that balanced diet, reducing portion sizes. So trying to increase the amount of fruit and veg in your plate. What we typically say if you need to lose weight, going for half of your plate to be veg, a quarter to be your protein section, and a quarter to be your carbohydrate section. That's kind of the weight loss plate.
Mm.
And then snacking wise, trying to go for healthier, lower calorie options. So instead of like your chocolate bar, having like some nuts and dried fruit, or like having some fruit in general, some hummus
Mm.
and carrots and those kind of things. So it's making small swaps and changing that portion size. But check if you need to lose weight first. I don't want
Perfect.
people losing weight if they don't need to.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Do you think there's any merit in these plates, the portion control plates? Do you think they're quite a helpful tool or?
I think they're helpful to visualize it.
Mm.
It is quite difficult though to use those if you're having, like, say, if you're having a spaghetti bolognese or a curry or a mixed meal, those don't
Hmm.
work. But
No.
it works initially if you have like meat and two veg. That's an
Mm.
easy way of visualizing it.
Visualizing, yeah. Brilliant. That's great. Thank you. So our next question comes from Dinesh, and they would like to know, can diet or supplements be used to improve peripheral neuropathy?
Yeah. So they can't be used instead of like conventional treatment. So definitely need to do what your doctors are advising and taking whatever medications.
Mm.
If you've deficiencies in micronutrients, so if you're deficient in B vitamins or vitamin D, anything like that, then yes, supplements prescribed from your doctors could help a little bit with that.
Mhm.
There's been lots of studies looking into diet and peripheral neuropathy.
Mm.
And there are some suggestions that omega-3s might be useful, but there's not enough evidence yet. So checking if there's any deficiencies and we're fixing that if there are, and then trying to follow that healthy, balanced diet. You can get omega-3s naturally through like oily fish, chia seeds, those kind of things. So including those in your diet if you'd like to, but there's not enough evidence to suggest supplementing anything like that yet, unfortunately.
Great. No, that's really useful to know. Um, yeah, good to know that it should come from a healthy, balanced diet,
Mm,
unless there's a deficiency there. Yeah, great,
yeah.
great. Douglas is our next question, and he would like to know what advice would you give for someone who has myeloma and diabetes? Can diabetes or diabetes treatments affect myeloma treatments?
Um, Not that I'm aware of. I don't think diabetes treatments should affect myeloma treatments. Your myeloma treatments might affect your diabetes more. So if you're on steroids, that can obviously affect your diabetes because it has a big impact on blood sugar. So it's kind of
Mm,
more that way around.
mm,
If your diabetes is well controlled, there's no need to do anything differently. But if you're having issues with like raised blood sugars during treatment, then avoiding very high sugar foods, so avoiding like juice, jam, adding sugar to your food, sweets. Um, but a lot of people during treatment, if you have diabetes, your blood sugars do become a bit out of control because when you're sick, your blood sugars can get raised. So a lot of it often is managing it through medications,
mm.
because we want to make sure you're getting in enough nutrition, and people can often struggle to do that while on treatment. So it's usually more about managing the medication side of things, but avoiding those very high sugar foods.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I've got a question now, which we do get through our Ask Nurse service quite a lot.
Mm.
It comes from Pauline, so it's a hot topic. What yogurt can you recommend that does not contain live cultures?
So that's so every yogurt will have had bacteria added to make it a yogurt. That's what a yogurt is. The advice is to avoid any probiotic yogurt. So if it specifically advertises that it is a probiotic, that needs to be avoided.
Mm,
Every other yogurt is fine.
mhm,
So the legality around it is you have to have quite a high level of bacteria and specific strains to be a probiotic. So those are the ones you're supposed to avoid because that's a lot of bacteria. In general, the
mhm.
rest of the yogurts are fine.
Great stuff. Fantastic. And all the information is on the labels, isn't it? If people have a good
Yeah.
look at them. Yeah,
So they
brilliant.
will all have a bacteria in them, but
Yeah,
if they advertise the bacteria, that's the one to avoid.
yeah. And the word probiotic, isn't it? Yeah,
Probiotic, yeah.
yeah. Great. Jane would like to know, why do people with cancer sometimes lose weight?
So having cancer itself puts your body in stress. So it increases your metabolism, so how quickly your body is turning over energy and how much energy your body uses. So the cancer cells are using energy, as is your body. So that is usually the first line as to why people may lose weight. Also, the side effects of cancer treatments are probably then the key reason that people typically lose weight. Like all those side effects we spoke to earlier, all make it very difficult to eat, and people can struggle to keep their weight on. Um, so it's that increased energy turnover, and then the decreased amount of energy you can be taking in, and then that leads to
Mhm,
weight loss.
mhm. Great, thank you. I think we've got time for maybe one more question, as it's getting quite close to close now. Martin has asked a live question this
Mhm.
evening, and they would like to know, do you think a plant-based diet would be advantageous? And should I be trying to have organic foods?
So that's a hot topic, plant-based diets. It's advantageous to have a lot of fruit and veg in your diet and a higher fiber diet if you don't have bowel issues. As we were talking about with the healthy, balanced diet side earlier, is we want to have lots and lots of fruit and veg, lots of whole grains, um, and you can get everything you need through a well-balanced plant-based diet. However, there's no evidence to suggest at the moment that people should go plant-based. It can be more difficult to have a well-balanced plant-based diet. It can be more difficult to get the good balance of nutrients. It can be more difficult to get enough protein and enough B vitamins, but it can be a very well balanced diet if you balance it correctly. But there's no evidence to show that having a plant-based diet is better than having an omnivore diet and a well-balanced diet. So both are completely fine to do if you're
Mhm.
balancing them properly. The other bit was about organic. There's no evidence that having an organic diet is better than not. There's a lot of information on Instagram and TikTok about organic diets, but there's no hard evidence to suggest it's better than not having an organic diet. It's very expensive as well.
I was going to say better for our purse as well, isn't
Mm,
it? Yeah, but yeah, great to know. Lovely. Thank you so much. So that is unfortunately all the time we have for questions today. So thank you so much, May, for answering those so
no worries.
brilliantly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will now hand back over to you for you to do your summary and then your take-home messages, please.
Uh, so yeah, thanks everyone for listening. So yeah, what we talked through was the balanced diet. I feel like we've gone through that in a lot of detail now. Practical tips for eating well. And I hope the myth busting has helped kind of clear up any things you might have heard before that may not have been accurate.
Brilliant.
So yeah, the three take-home messages, like I mentioned earlier, all about that balanced diet, the importance of having that to keep your strength up, to get enough energy in, and to improve and maximize your life, basically. Um, you can change your diet to help with your any symptoms you're having or any side effects of treatment, and it is useful to do that if you are struggling to get enough nutrition in. And do please talk to your healthcare professional if you need any support. Because yeah, there's lots of dietitians and physios out there that can help.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for that, Meg. Thank you. Please do remember that we are here to support you, and we offer so many services where you can speak to someone who understands. As well as the info packs and info sheets mentioned in the chat, we also have a range of publications that you can download from our website or order a selection of hard copies as well. All of our previous digital info day sessions are up on our website and also on our YouTube channel, where you can watch them on demand. We have our Peer Buddy service, which provides the chance for you to tap into the knowledge and experience of others in a one-to-one setting. And lastly, we have a range of support groups all over the UK where you can meet other patients, carers, and family members. Myeloma, as we were saying, is a very individual cancer, but you don't have to go through it alone. There are lots of ways to connect with others who know what you're going through. So we have come to the end of our event this evening. Our thanks go to Maves once more for speaking to us this evening. We'd also like to thank everyone who's joined us tonight, and we hope you found it helpful and informative. If we didn't answer your question tonight, or event has prompted some new questions, please do contact us. You can do this via our info line or Ask the Nurse email service. Our contact details are on the screen right now, but they can also be found on our website too. So thank you to our supporters. Thanks to our supporters, Myeloma UK can provide free digital events just like this one for patients and their families. However you choose to support us, your generosity will help us change the lives of people living with myeloma and their families. So once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening. Good night.
Thank you.